Hi, Steve here from Planet Cruise. I'm here in Quito in Ecuador, where I'm going to be joining the Celebrity Xpedition. So on the first day, we had some really easy flights and transfers that were provided by Celebrity and Planet Cruise, and getting all the way over to here in Ecuador, everything went smooth and easily. They took our bags from us at the airport where we met a Celebrity representative, and everything was nice and smooth. We had some information given to us on the coach, all about the whole trip was going to entail. We also were given, our bags were taken for us straight to our room as soon as we got here, and then there was roughly around 12 people on the coach, so I think that kind of made it a bit more personal. It was a lot easier for the transfer to work. Any information that you could ask, you could simply ask your celebrity representative and they would help you out really easily. So as soon as we got to the hotel, they took our bags from us and took them up to our rooms for us. They have a celebrity help desk in the Marriott Hotel, which I am in now, and that actually runs up until 2 o'clock in the morning. So that was the first day. The room was huge as well. The room was fantastic. It's massive. I had a lovely night's sleep, and now on to day 2, where we're going to go a day tour of Quito. On the second day of Quito, we got to do a walking tour of the city, which allowed us to see the history and the culture, as well as getting to go to the equator. The very first place we got to see was the monastery in Quito. We got to see some old beautiful gardens. We got to hear some old tales about the Catholic heritage of the city. My favourite part of this was actually getting to see Mass in the old cathedral that was inside the monastery. From here we got to see La Campana church, which was really quite stunning because there was gold everywhere, gold on the ceilings, gold on the walls, gold on the floors. From here we got to see some amazing panoramic views of Quito as a whole. We also saw a big statue of Mary stood on the devil, represented as a snake. But the views on top of this hill, well, it's called a hill, but it's much more a mountain to me and you, but it was really, really quite beautiful. My favourite part of the tour was actually going to the Equator and the World Park Museum. The reason why this was so good because they give you some information about the north and southern hemisphere and why the equator is so important to that gravitational pull that you feel. You actually lose weight when you go there. Not only this, you got to see how Ecuador are related to the Amazon rainforest. You got to see the different tribes that are involved with Ecuador and the rainforest itself. One of the things that was really quite creepy but quite amazing at the same time, the tribes that they were talking about used to have human heads as shrines up until the 1970s. What they do is they pull the skull out of a human body and then use the skin and turn it into a shrine that they'd wear around their neck. The last part of the tour was very, very interesting. We got to try some cacao, which is basically the seeds which end up into chocolate today, but the very original bits of it. They're a lot more acidic and more of a fruit than you would imagine. It was very, very strange, but it was very, very nice. And you also got to taste some of the grounded in bits which taste like dark chocolate. They're very, very strange, but again, really, really nice. After roughly an hour flight, we actually got to Galapagos, which as soon as you set foot on the islands, you can really tell how much of a majestic place this really is. To join Celebrity Xpedition, we had to get on a Zodiac, which held about 16 people, roughly. What makes this ship a lot different from all the other cruise ships is this is an exploration cruise ship. You actually feel much more of a traveller than just a normal cruise holiday. One of the very first things we did was actually circumnavigate Daphne Island. Daphne Island is a satellite volcanic cone located north of Santa Cruz. But the main birds that we actually saw and actually followed the ship itself were some frigate birds. We then went on to have the captain's cocktail party and given some more information about the days to come. It really feels like this is going to be an exploration like no other. So on the fourth day we got to do so much and see so many different animals. It was like we've been taken to Jurassic Park, and there is some scenery that we've seen that's like as if you've been just taken and dropped into like a scene of Game of Thrones or something. The setting is unreal, and the different types of animals we've seen is just ridiculous. and some of these animals can only be found on these islands. So on day 4 we got to go on the Zodiac and go over to Gardner Bay, and as soon as we got there were sea lions everywhere, and you could just hear them in the sea and as well as on land. After that we actually went to Suarez, where we did a long rocky walk. As soon as you step off that Zodiac, you get to see all different types of sea lions, you can see all different types of crab, you get to see the marine iguanas. It was really amazing. I did actually see a blue-footed booby. Unfortunately he didn't poke his feet out because he was resting. The amount of birds that you could actually see, there were so many. There's the Galapagos albatross, the Nescar boobies, just to name a few. And then you walk through all the different scenery, you see the blues, the greens, as it changes through the leaves and the different types of bushes and even the rocks that you're actually walking on. It's just so different from anything that you'd see anywhere else in the world. The perfect example of the scenery and the setting being so picturesque and beautiful would be a place called the Blowhole. This is where the water actually hits the rocks and it just gushes up. Anyone that's thinking about doing a Galapagos cruise, I can't push to go here because I feel like such an adventure, and we're only on day 2 of being in Galapagos. So today in the Galapagos we went to Floreana Island, Port Comment, and it was quite drizzly and rainy, but that made it extra special. So we went along the beach and saw some more sea lions and range of birds. We actually saw a blue-footed booby, which is quite exciting because we actually saw him dancing and doing some of his movements. So as we walked inland we saw everything open up, and it was really quite mystical. There was the fog over the top of the mountains, and the mountains were just peeking up above it, and then we came to this massive lake, and it was really quite beautiful because in the middle of the lake we saw the bright pinks of these flamingos from the other side. So as we walked more inland we got to the other side of the island, to this massive beach, and it was beautiful. It was so scenic. The thing that I found most interesting to watch at this point was this pelican, and it was swooping down off the rocks and catching fish. It was swimming. It was almost like it was there for photographic opportunity. After we got back to the ship we got on another Zodiac to go deep sea snorkeling. As we were swimming with the animals we see lots of variety of fish, lots of colours and lots of different rainbows, but unfortunately I didn't think I was ever going to see a sea turtle. And then as we were carried on swimming, me and Mihal, the other Planet Cruise expert that I'm here with, was swimming, and a sea lion actually swam underneath him. The sea lions were all on the rocks and they were jumping in, swimming, catching fish. And as we had the snorkels on we could look under the water and we could see them actually catching the fish with our own eyes. After this we carried on along and looked down, you could see the white-tipped sharks as they were going along the seabed, and then I actually got to see a sea turtle. It was huge. It was slowly bobbing along, it came right next to me. As we finally went along, carried on swimming, seeing more and more fish, a couple more shark. It was just an amazing experience. If anyone ever wants to go snorkeling, come over to Galapagos, because that's where you're going to get to see the best animals. So today we went to Isabela Island in Galapagos, and the very first thing we did was took a Zodiac in around the edge of the island. We saw lots of blue-footed boobies swooping up and catching their fish and all swimming around and standing on the edge of the rocks. It was quite a sight actually to see the blue-footed boobies with the marine iguanas side by side, because this was the island that you'd find the biggest marine iguanas, because we were told that's where they eat the most. Also we saw some pelicans doing this as well, and they were all by the edge of the rocks as well as flying high all together and swooping down and catching their fish. And then we got to the island itself, which was the remains of a volcanic eruption. We could see the 3 different volcanoes all around us, so there's lots of different crevices, and you can basically tell that it's the remains from an eruption. And as you're going up you see some big old lake-looking waterfalls, and then also when we were going up we saw some of the snakes. We got told one of them was a constrictor snake and that they can get really quite long, but you had to be quite careful because you could even see in between the gaps of where the landfills would actually go. But it was very interesting. It's another island which here in Galapagos they're all so different, but they're all so remarkable in their own right. Just looking out and seeing the nothingness and seeing the terrain and just seeing the magicalness of these settings is really amazing. So we took a Zodiac into some deep water from Fernandina Island, and this is the best snorkeling experience I've ever had. Before we even got into the water, as I was dipping my snorkel into to clear up the mask, one of the sea lions actually popped up and tried snatching it out of my hands. This is because he was playing with the boat and playing with us all as soon as we get off. And actually, as soon as we got into the water, the sea lion was coming up to us and swimming all around us. He was darting up and down, and we were actually swimming alongside the sea lion, and he was swimming around us in circles. And it was one of those experiences that you just can't get anywhere else other from in Galapagos and from on a cruise ship. It was just really amazing. It's an adventure of a lifetime. Just after we saw the sea lion, there were these penguins that came and started bobbing up alongside us, and then we saw some absolutely massive turtles, and they were just slowly going along, and I actually was swimming alongside this turtle for a good 10 minutes. It was just an experience that you can never get anywhere else. Near the end of the snorkel, I was going through these two chasms almost, and as I was going through these chasms I saw the biggest sea turtle I've ever seen, and it was on the bottom and it was nibbling on some little fish. So the next place we went to was Vicente, Roca, and again we went snorkeling, and it was a totally different experience to any of the other ones that we've done before. We carried on swimming along and there was hundreds of sea turtles, and I'm not over exaggerating with this, they were everywhere. We were told that this was because they just laid their eggs and they were protecting their eggs around there, so we had to be very careful not to touch them. But it was very hard not to, because it was like a minefield of sea turtles. They were everywhere. There were big ones, little ones, there were females, males, babies. They were literally anywhere you moved there was a sea turtle. So it was really hard not to actually touch one of them, but it was just breathtaking. It was a little bit scary, but it was they were literally everywhere. Coming to Galapagos on a cruise like this is just amazing. Seeing the different things that you see each time you go snorkeling, each time you go on land, it's just an amazing experience and a real adventure of a lifetime. So today in Galapagos we went to two different islands. The first one we went to was South Plaza in Santa Cruz. This island was very much like a Greek island, and it was very much for the scenery, a little bit less for the wildlife. We did see some wildlife. We saw some iguanas, some baby sea lions, and lots of different birds. But the main thing I liked here was the wildlife. There was lots of red weeds all over that was very vibrant, which clashed with the green of the cacti that were everywhere all across the island. Actually, on the island we saw some conservation with some meshed fencing. This was because some of the iguanas were eating some of the seeds which were being planted to grow some cacti on the island. The best bit of the wildlife that I saw today was the sea lions. We saw a baby sea lion and a mother sea lion. The baby sea lion was hitting its mother trying to get to feed, but the mother didn't want it to. So it actually ended up with them both shouting at one another, and the mother sea lion getting up and walking towards the sea, but eventually the mother sea lion gave in and the baby sea lion was feeding just before it got to the water. As we got to the top of the hill on South Plaza, we saw the big volcano in the background, and also we saw down across the cliffs, and there were lots of birds soaring as the waves were crashing. It was very beautiful. The second Santa Cruz island that we went to was called Dragon Island, and again this is much more for the landscape as opposed to the wildlife. We did see some of the iguanas. It's very different to the island before. where it's almost you've been picked up and taken to Mexico. It's very, very dusty. The beaches are white and crystal. You could almost get a towel out and roll it out and sunbathe on them. Dragon Island's got the big volcano in the background, some very big lakes, and it's very, very pretty, and some dusty terrain to go along with it. If you do end up going to Dragon Island, I wouldn't say go here for the wildlife. I'd say go for the views and the picturesque landscape. It's very much like you've been taken into an old western and into like a setting from one of the old movies, like in Mexico or somewhere like that. Today in Galapagos we went to Santa Cruz Island. It was the very first place we actually found we could find some souvenirs, some a bit more touristy places. It seemed a lot like one of the Caribbean islands that you might go to, like Dominican Republic or somewhere like that. The very first place we went here was the Charles Darwin Centre. This was a research centre for all the tortoises, and it was actually a breeding ground for all the tortoises. There were the large giant tortoises, the little tiny ones. It was really quite amazing seeing all these tortoises up close and personal. While we were at the Charles Darwin Centre, we got told the story about Lonesome George. He was basically a tortoise that was the last of his breed. So what they did was they tried sending out a reward to find a female of his species. Unfortunately, they couldn't find one and he died in 2012, so it was quite a sad story, but they have a memorial inside the research centre for Lonesome George. And after the Charles Darwin Centre, we went for a walk. Along this walk we found a fish market which was selling lots of different types of fish in lots of different colours. There were lots of pelicans and sea lions that were like around this fish market. This is because the fish market's right by the sea and right by the pontoon. Actually, if you ever watched My Family in Galapagos on Channel 4, this was actually shown on that programme with all the different colours and different types of fish that they sell, all the different crabs, the lobsters, all the different breeds of fish that they sell right by the pontoon. We then took a coach and went to go plant some scalecia, and we also went to go for lunch. When we were at our lunch, we got some music and some dancing from some local performers. It was really quite a sight because there were lots of different colours and there was lots of different movements, and it was very, very interesting to experience the culture. From having lunch, we went to go see some more tortoises, but actually in the wild, and this was amazing. They were everywhere. It was literally like you've been taken to Jurassic Park, but if it was Tortoise Park. They were in the lakes, they were in the bogs, they were in the grasses, they were in the bushes. As soon as you walk out, you could see a tortoise right by your feet. The best way to go to Galapagos is by cruise. Not one island is the same. One landscape will be like the Adriatic Islands in Greece. One landscape will look like you're in Mexico. The next terrain will look like you're in the Caribbean. And also all the animals in each island, they might be similar, but they're very, very different. There'll be different shapes, there'll be different sizes, there'll be different birds, everything is very, very different. If you're ever looking for an adventure of a lifetime, I can't urge you more to come to the Galapagos Islands by cruise ship, because these guides and experts that are on these ships will take you to the best places and you'll see the best things.
Hiya, thanks for watching the video. Now don't forget to like, comment and subscribe below. Remember to click that bell to get all notifications, and if you're looking for more fantastic travel video content like this, click on the videos to the right hand side. It'll be really informative. Or click on the planet logo to the left to go to our website for some fantastic deals. Keep cruising.